Hello everyone, I'm Tone and welcome back again to the breakdown. We've got a lot of stuff to get through today, so I've got some notes. The last week since my last video has been crazy, and I'm not going to use any keywords to do with what's going on. A lot of videos are being flagged because of terms being used. It is censorship. There have been some channels that have been closed. It's pretty crazy. But what I'm going to talk about, it's going to be clear what I'm talking about. I'm not going to need to spell it out for you. So first thing that I wanted to talk about today, I've heard quite a lot of reports of elderly people, especially, and those that are vulnerable, worrying, quite literally freaking out, and scared to their core on this stuff that's going on now. Even though they're at home and they're safe at home and they're not receiving visitors, they are freaking out. And I blame the media for that, 100%. In fact, on my notes, as I've got here, the first thing I wanted to talk about was the, and I've talked about this in my very first video. I said I'm going to come out and attack the media in some ways where they really just blow things up. And they've done that in this case. 100% they have. Because they've got this infectious media panic that just permeates society. They go on about it and they just, everything, it's all just about this current issue we have. Just bang, bang, bang. And they do it every time. But this time, obviously being a health issue, it worries more and more and more people. It attacks at people's anxieties. People's anxieties and all of that is inflamed. It's aggravated. It's rife through our society. Look at the panic buying and you'll understand what I mean. But then, get this, they have the audacity to televise it in that way, portray it in that way, and then come and talk about, in a very patronising way, don't panic. But don't panic. It's all right. We're all going to get through this together. Well, they're right about that. We will. We are going to get through it. But to have one, to have it like, this is happening, and this many, and that many, and then, but don't panic. It's okay. They're there. This is one thing that I hate. I don't use the word hate very often, but in this case, man, the audacity of the media at the moment. Not only that, as I said, there is censorship going on where certain terms are being flagged and material that is being made is being removed. So make of that what you want. Really, as I said in previous videos, the truth is the truth, and you'll be able to see it if you're looking for it. Why would there need to be censorship? Especially if that material, which some of it I have watched, is factual. Why remove it? But we'll leave it at that. That's something for you to think about, why that is happening. Open your eyes, step back, get a wide scope of what's happening around you. Always be applying that. Now, obviously in the last week we've had some closures of businesses, places of meeting, and all of that. That's all been since my last video. I did talk about closures, restrictions, and all those sorts of things coming into place. I'm not surprised by it one bit, but we did already talk about that. But I wanted to talk about the fact that while we've got a lot of things closed, an example, shopping centres, food courts, of course, you can still get takeaways, but food courts closed, shopping centres closed, churches closed, borders between states closed. We got limiting the number of visitors at your home, beaches and other public places, like for example Bondi, closed. Schools, universities, TAFEs, still open. Let that sink in just for a little while. Have a bit of a think about that. I gave you a list of things that you're probably already aware have been closed. Now I have heard that schools were going to close early for holidays. Yeah. Okay. But with certain things being closed and those not yet being closed, well, look, that's obviously double, triple standard, whatever you want to say, that I found to be rather interesting. And I've got a number of friends that are teachers, and I think that they've got quite a point to be frustrated over the way things were implemented in the way that I just described, how those places were still open. Of course, education today isn't what it used to be. It's much more about ideas rather than learning to think for yourself. That's true. Again, take from that what you want, but that is the truth of it. But here's an interesting thing. So schools stayed open, and I know that they're moving towards online learning and those sorts of options, which is a good idea, should have been implemented a lot earlier in my opinion. But I find that it's very interesting that the government was talking about learning needing to be implemented at home, and I don't think the government has any place to speak to this issue in this way at all. What it says, education must continue unabated at home while being educated at home, yeah. But of course, schools still open. Right. Well, I was going to talk about, I got it on good authority by someone that does work in a school, and can't say that this is broad spectrum, can't say that, but I'd be surprised if it wasn't. But 70% of the learning time in the last 2 weeks has been used for sanitisation, for disinfecting, general hygiene. And of course the students have played on this, haven't they? So schools have stayed open for those 2 weeks. But the students have to wash their hands. And of course they'll line up, and then what happens? Well, they'll niggle each other, they'll get too close to each other, they'll touch each other's hair. You've got to go back and wash your hands. Right? So let's say 70% of what should be learning time has been just washing hands. And would you expect a lot of students to act any differently? How do you control that? You expect the teachers to control that, do you? So, government mandating that learning should be happening at home, the same that it would be at school. Come on. We're in exceptional circumstances here. Everything comes a distant second to protecting people's health. As serious or not serious or whatever this situation is, health is paramount. Education, we can pick that up where we left off when everything else is sorted out. So again, I don't think the government has any place to be talking in such a way as to mandate that education continue at home the same that it would at school. Yeah, no, not your place. Just make sure that the safety and if people are going out, yeah, okay, lockdown is required. Restrictions on meetings are required, yes, sure. But things aren't going to continue in the same way that they have while this is all going on, is it? No, it's not. So I wanted to cover that because, and also the teachers being treated the way they have been. I understand them. The protections and they're not child minders, they're educators, professionals. They're not child minders so that people who still have a job at the moment can keep going to work and don't have to mind their kids at home. Come on. Seriously, come on. There are other ways to manage that. And it's not leaving schools open. But look, that's my opinion on that. And I'm not budging on that. I think that's pretty well self-explanatory. Government overstepping its bounds in that regard. What was the next one? Oh yes. In this case, we're learning something, I think. We're becoming slaves to money. And as a society, as a world, we have become slaves to money, and that's almost complete. Just look at the amount of talk to do with subsidies required and wage subsidies, increases to the welfare payments and all that sort of thing. I don't see this issue continuing on into the future for a long, long, long time, especially if people do what they're supposed to do and should have already been preparing to do weeks ago. Again, covered that in previous videos. But look, here's what it is. We've become slaves to money. We've become super spoiled, really, with what we can get with that money. And self-sufficiency, I see it as being at an all-time low. The reliance on things from the supermarkets. Look at all of what's been happening, the panic buying. Got to get it from there because there's nowhere else to get it from. So self-sufficiency is a lie. You go to a job, make enough money so that you can buy what you need is not self-sufficiency on a whole scale. So, I just wanted to cover on that. We're becoming slaves to money. In fact, I'll leave that for the end. I'll leave that for the end. What I was just thinking. Now, staying at home is considered the safest place. Yes, I agree with that. But I'm hoping that it'll teach people in our society some valuable lessons. It's going to be a lot of home time, a lot of time for people to be sitting at home and what do you do? Well, I'm hoping that people learn to be a little bit more self-sufficient into the future, because less money coming in, less income, less work, and yet I hope people learn that they can spread that a whole lot further than they probably have been. They'll have no choice but to cut out some luxuries, and they'll realise that their life as a whole doesn't deteriorate much. And I'm not talking about emotional responses in this case. I'm talking about what you can see before you. You have food in your belly. You have happy family around you. Happy being subjective term, I'm sure. But controlling the environment at home should become a lot more important as well, because everyone's going to be spending a lot more time together. And I heard that some people, they talk about they're going to go insane while they're at home by themselves or just with their families. Well, sanity is a frame of mind, of course. But the importance of spending alone time. If you live alone or you live with just one other person, the importance of spending large enough amounts of time by yourself with no one else around is very important for your sanity. I've found that to be very true. And it's helped me learn to be a lot more grounded. I guess we could talk about boredom in this part. Boredom is a frame of mind. Are you able to imagine and come up with creative ideas in order to stave off boredom? Again, quite a few friends of mine that I have on Facebook have been doing exactly that. They're not allowing the fact that there's nothing to do to dictate their happiness or to make them feel any less stable. They're finding stuff to do, and in fact they're encouraging other people to find stuff to do. So that is a massive positive. More family time together, a little bit more alone time together. You have your own room and you go to your own room and just, well, I'm hoping there's a lot of praying going on personally, because that'll help too. Help your own sanity, for sure. What else was there I wanted to cover on that? Oh, yes. While we're talking about staying at home and sanity and having alone time and all those sorts of things, I'm hoping that there's an increase in family time at home. And I'd encourage, because these types of times, well, it's the first time it's happened in our lifetime, isn't it? But these kinds of times where we're, in some ways, we're forced to spend more time together. We can't allow the excuse of I'm too busy, and that busyness is usually making a lot more money than we really need, to buy a lot more stuff than we really need. So we're really trading quality time with family for stuff we don't need. That, I hope, sinks in. But while we've got that time where we're a little bit forced to spend that time together, I'm hoping that, especially for families with young children, I'm hoping that the time is being used or can be used to start to weed out unacceptable behaviours that children have. And to, on the flip side of that, of course, foster really beneficial behaviours and encourage those ways of thinking that they can, think for themselves, but in the right way, and help them to develop. That you may not have had that time, or may not have known that you had that time, or you may not have made that time because you were focused on and distracted by things that you thought you needed, when in actual fact you're going to find, in this case, well, actually you didn't need it as much as you thought you did. That's what I'm hoping a lot of people are going to take from this. This is not a negative, this is actually a huge positive. Not only staying at home and protecting your family and protecting the health of everybody else, because, can't share with others when you're not meeting others. That's also going to, that's one benefit. The other benefit is more time to really listen to and to talk to kids, brothers, sisters, mums, dads. Make the most of it, because wow, what an amazing opportunity that is. I'm going to say, yes, I'm hoping that maybe from this, many are going to come to realize how much time, money, opportunities they may have wasted. Again, I am talking about myself in all of this, but to think about the time and all those things that they've wasted on things that didn't matter, and how much now they can focus on the things that are really important. Again, I hope that that's something that can be taken from this, because we've got to find the positives in these sorts of circumstances. What else? I've covered that one. And this is for everybody. But I'm going to speak specifically, I guess, also to the older generations that may have less that they are able to do even when they're stuck at home. Limit the amount of media that you're absorbing. Please, for your own sake. It's just crazy, some of the stuff, the way that they're portraying it, the way that they're talking about it. I'm not going to deny that it is serious, and that's why these procedures are being put in place. But when we're following those, the risk is less. And but the media is continuing on with how many have it and whatever else. Limit your exposure to the media, but stay informed on what your responsibilities are regarding the law, because you get fines if you go out and do certain things now. So it's beneficial for you to be aware of what you can and cannot do, but a lot of the rest of the stuff that fills in the gaps at the moment, it's not helpful. It's not helpful. It's going to stress everybody out. It's going to make people feel uncomfortable. And look, when you're at home and you're fostering, uh, when you're fostering, is that the right word? When you are, when you're fostering a good environment at home, and you're keeping yourself safe, and you're keeping those at home safe, and you're working on keeping your mental state of mind healthy, again by avoiding a lot of the media stuff, you're safe at home. And if you had the prudence to have enough things at home already, you don't need to go out to buy it and risk infection, risk infecting others, because you already got the stuff at home. You're also not causing people to have to deliver it to your home, which is putting them at risk either. And I know a number of my friends have spoken about, hey, look, things will still be able to be delivered. Well, I'll be interested to see how long that is possible, how long they allow that for. Now, that's not to institute panic buying, but it is to speak to the fact that it is prudent to have things at home already. Ideally, that would have already happened. You will have already done that. If not, well, just be careful when you're doing it. All I really wanted to talk about regarding that. I think that's really all that I wanted to talk about. Just a lot of the things that I spoke about in my last video, they're happening. And when we're not distracted by things that we think we need to be doing in our life, we look at things more clearly and we focus on what we probably really ought to be noticing. And then we don't put ourselves at risk of being late to the party, so to speak. We are already up to date with what we really needed to have in place even before things get to... I said before, there was the potential for what is happening. It wasn't guaranteed, but the potential was there, and I had the strong conviction that it would happen. It has happened. So take from that what you will. But that's not to blow a trumpet and go, I'm good. I just, eyes open, ears open, and look at what's happening around you and dissect it, work out why it's happening, look at the possibilities of what might happen, and be ahead of the trend. In my final and closing thoughts just on this, what I'm talking about now, I hope and pray that you are home and safe, and that if you are still working, that you are taking the right precautions, and that you are focusing on the things that do matter and are important, that you are listening to various sources, especially if the sources are encouraging you to think for yourself rather than just swallow whatever's being thrown out at you from the television. And by all means, I encourage praying. I encourage really meditating on what's going on around you and understanding it for what it really is. And that's for your sake. I'm not going to get any benefit from you doing that. I get benefit from doing it myself. That's all I can say. But as far as that goes, about this stuff that I've shared with you today, I just wanted to touch on some of these things because we're getting told a lot of stuff. We're also not getting told a lot of stuff. And it's the stuff we're not being told that matters the most. So, as I said, and I'll continue to keep saying, you be seeking the truth and you'll find it. You will get there. Don't just swallow what's put to you, because most times there's an agenda behind it, especially when we're talking about mass media, government. Be thinking for yourself, be blessed, and catch you in the next videos.